you're an intermediate drummer trying to break through, to be able to do the things you see your favorite drummers doing, listen up. Because the thing holding you back is not having enough stuff to play. It's not your single stroke rolls. It's not playing in odd meters. Or left foot clave. Or linear fills. Stop! All that stuff is like garnish on the dinner plate. And the entree on the dinner plate is the real thing holding you back. And I've seen enough drummers over the years who are staying in one place because they think their problem is all that stuff, when really it's something different, and mostly all the same thing different. And sometimes when people contact me obsessing over some detail like quintuplets, then I hear they're playing and this fundamental thing is listening, I wish I had one video to point back to. So I'm making one. Practically all intermediate drummers are missing one big thing. Almost by definition, because if they weren't missing it, they wouldn't be intermediate anymore. Attention to detail. As in the how of the exercise or the beat, not just the what. In drums, you could play exactly what's on the page in a way that misses all the fine-grained details the pros have, and go through entire books or courses just skating over the surface. And today, we'll talk about it. Because it's not just, oh, pay more attention to detail, got it. If that worked, nobody would ever be stuck at intermediate on drums. Think about it this way. If I show you this example of playing, would you know exactly what to change to make it sound like this? If the answer is no, in either case, it's okay. But that's why I'm here to help. Oh, I'm Nate, and people call me the 80/20 drummer. And today on the channel, how attention to detail is the big elephant in the room holding intermediate drummers back. Stay tuned. And folks, in the course of demonstrating some of the concepts we're going to demonstrate this week, we're going to have a couple of hypothetical exercises. And you might be tempted to write those down. They're excerpted from some of my courses. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that. You can get the transcription free by clicking the link below the player and telling us where to send it on the next page. Now, on with the lesson. Let's first talk about what we're going for. Like, what constitutes an intermediate drummer and what constitutes an advanced one? Generally, in the modern era, we think of advanced as something like this. Or like this. And I'll try to do an example of intermediate, though it won't be perfect because I'm so good. JK. What I mean is, I worked for years to ingrain certain patterns, so forgetting them is going to be hard. But here's my college try. All of this is to make a simple point. I'm going to show you a bunch of little details to pay attention to. And many of you are going to be like, ah, I see. But some of you might say two things. I don't hear it, what's the difference? Or its cousin, I don't see why this matters, this is just splitting hairs. It might look like obsessing over tiny details nobody would care about. And when it's slow and isolated, that's probably true. Ask somebody on the street why this is better than this. And you'll likely get shrugs, or maybe even some people saying, I like the bad one better. So, slowly, isolated, maybe the average person can't tell the difference. When you put it all together and play it at tempo, however, these are examples. I don't even have to do a not this example, because if you're watching, think about your playing and ask yourself, does it sound this pro? Hopefully, I've just proven that those details are worth obsessing over, because they add up to big, obvious differences. Now, let's talk about what those details are. For a disclaimer, humans are wonderfully analog, and there are a bunch of gradations of sound, feel, taste, touch, timing, etc. But when we talk about the differences between intermediates and pros, we can categorize a lot of those minute differences into three big baskets of things: time or timing, stick height, and zones. As I discussed in this video last week, practically every good modern drummer has control over these three things, even if they sometimes choose to bend the rules. Let's take them in order. Time obviously means not speeding up or slowing down, but it also means control of the distance between subdivisions. To take a simple exercise from one of my courses, that means the difference between playing like this and this. And those details matter because here's a pro drummer with great subdivision. Just trust me that his notes are all a consistent distance apart. Speed that up and add some flair, and that's what you get. Don't sound like that? Probably work on subdivisions. Next one, stick height. This is one of the most ignored aspects of what pros do well. And it wasn't always this way. But beginning with studio greats like Steve Gadd, Jeff Porcaro, Bernard Purdie, and others, the sound of cleanly differentiated rim shots became table stakes for modern drumming. That means if we take this example exercise, there's a big difference between playing it like this with big differentiation of rim shots and ghost strokes and consistent rim shots, and this, where everything's kind of muddled. If you doubt this one is important, listen to this drummer here. And ask, does your improvisation sound that clean? If not, it's probably because the subdivision and stick height control are better when you drill down. Then you add speed, volume, creativity, and you get this. Last major one. And that's not to say other things aren't important, but last of the three major ones that loom super large to me: zones. That means you hit the drum in the center, and you hit the drum in the same spot every time. This is important for every drum, but it's most obvious with the snare drum. I'll play another simple exercise, first trying to keep the stick beats close to the center of the drum, regardless of what else I'm doing. Now I'll let the stick zones migrate a little. It adds up to a less consistent sound, since every time you're migrating around the drum, you're changing the tone subtly. Again, add all that up, speed it up, and add some creativity and flair, and that's what creates this gestalt of cleanliness and control. And to be super clear, sometimes players will intentionally play a little off-center. But you want to control your sound, not have it be inconsistent and not know why. There's one honorable mention which is less universal, but it's really important if you're playing jam sessions or big venues, and that's the ability to produce consistent volume without tension, we should say. A lot of the modern drummers we consider good have the ability to play through the drum and project with a decent amount of power. This is very different if we're playing jazz, but that power also creates a focused sound that can punch through a lot of noise in a loud situation. Last disclaimer, it probably goes without saying that you should be able to play quietly too. So, do these make sense? So learning to have more awareness of this stuff means being able to hear a drummer who sounds like this and say, ooh, his subdivisions are drifting a little and his snare zones are inconsistent, versus just feeling like, I don't know, it's not quite pro, for some reason you can't really place. Now, let's talk about why I think this persists. I'm going to flag three primary things, which are just my anecdotal observations, and there could definitely be other ones. In fact, leave a comment below if I miss one. But here we go. First is lack of hearing great players close up. I can't overemphasize how helpful it was to be at NAMM in 2016 and hear people like Sean Wright, Forrest Rice, and Mason Guidry play within feet of me on the same kit I just played without any mics. I realized that a lot of what I thought was coming from the mics and the mix from great drummers is actually just better players with better touch and time. If you ever have an opportunity to hear a great drummer close up in a non-mic'd situation, I'd recommend it. Second is the way we've been taught to use books or printouts, which is to say you'll get a book or a printout and then you'll do the exercise. You get a check from the teacher, then you move on to the next exercise. And if you do that enough, you're done with the book. But do and done in that sentence is doing a lot of work. As I've demonstrated, it's perfectly possible to do exercises at surface level, ignoring all those details we've been talking about. Whenever possible in my courses, I try to rely on videos and only use written examples to help absorb the videos faster. But I'll often get comments that my stuff is too easy. Depends on what level you're doing it. The third reason, in my humble opinion, is lack of self-recording. If some of my most formative experiences were hearing other drummers close up, the other half of that was hearing recordings of myself and realizing it did not sound like the record. That began a multi-year journey to figure out why, and it boiled down to those three things. So, have we learned anything? My contention is the major thing holding intermediate drummers back is not odd meters or left foot clave, though those are certainly fun to work on. It's attention to detail. And that's how you get the gig. Anyway, you guys, I have no doubt that this will be another controversial one. Leave a polite comment below if you'd like to get involved in the discussion. Otherwise, as you've seen throughout this lesson, we have some demos of exercises that you can either do well or worse, excerpted from my courses, and you might want transcriptions of those. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do it yourself. Just click the link below the player and tell us where to send it on the next page, and we'll send those to you for free. Dudes, it's been real, always enjoyed this. See you again real soon in another lesson of the week. Nice, clean take.